Hey guys! Today we'll be recapping the manhwa, Baby Pharmacist Princess. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, as it really helps our channel grow. Thanks. Our story begins on a gloomy stage at the execution of a young lady. She kneels before a noblewoman called Alexandra Zen Castalia. A picture-perfect villainess if I ever saw one. I mean, look at her. Doesn't she just ooze evil? The girl in front of her, Cherise, is an illegitimate member of the royal family and Alexandra's half-sister. She's been accused of plotting treason, though somehow I get the sense that isn't true. As Cherise kneels beneath the guillotine, her sister draws close, whispering quietly that she's really happy to watch her die. Damn, how cold can you get? Suddenly, a screen pops up offering Cherise a chance to end her game and start over. I think anyone in her position would take the chance. It's better than having your head cut off. So Cherise clicks yes and suddenly pops out of the guillotine, shocking her half-sister and all the guards. She even gets a chance to give Alexandra the bird before the game fades to black. I think I like this girl. Back in reality, the girl playing as Cherise throws off her headset, irritated. She spent a lot of time playing this VR game where the main character acts as a kingmaker, picking a successor to ascend to the throne without getting killed themselves. It's pretty difficult, and so far, our protagonist hasn't succeeded once. At the start of the game, you can choose your class and stats, so she picked the pharmacist route. By gathering, producing, and selling potions, she made a ton of cash, which she wanted to use to put Alexandra at the top and turn her into the Empress. But she couldn't win her trust, and in the end, she got betrayed. Our protagonist is about to give up and get ready for work when suddenly the screen glitches. After hitting it a few times, a new option pops up with an announcement carried by a floating bunny. There's a special event for the most hardcore of players, giving them a key to another dimension for an insane price. Seriously, is that like a billion? A trillion? Who knows? Either way, it looks like spam, so the girl tries to click no. But instead, a message pops up saying her payment has been completed. Well, kiss your savings goodbye, bestie. Looks like she'll also have to kiss her old life goodbye because when our protagonist wakes up, she's in the body of baby Cherise, lying on the floor of the Imperial Palace. Another screen pops up, this one claiming her payment has failed. Because she doesn't have the money, her title is switched from customer to debtor, and suddenly the notifications start looking kind of evil. Uh-oh, I've got a bad feeling about this. Aside from the very concerning notifications, there's also the issue of young Alexandra currently looming over her. In the game, she starts at 15, but it seems like both girls are far younger than that here. While the protagonist, now baby Cherise, is fiddling with the display, Alexandra gives her a kick. Seems like these two were enemies from the start. Though famous for her beauty, Princess Alexandra Castalia has always been a rotten soul. As if to prove it, she pulls out a riding crop, threatening to whip her half-sister with it. At just that moment, our protagonist receives the memories of Cherise, who has been bullied and mistreated ever since she was born. Although the royal family of the Castalian Empire received preferential treatment, Cherise, as a half-blooded royal, was always looked down upon. That's why the game positions her as the kingmaker, someone able to play God and put a character of their choice on the throne. But that's pretty much impossible when every possible option turns into a villain. At least this time, Cherise has more control over her actions. And after several failed runs at the game, she's had enough. When Alexandra gets close enough, she smashes her head into her chin and sprints away as fast as she can. While running through the corridors, she spots that evil little bunny, the one that took all her money and forced her into this body. Furious, Cherise speeds up. While trying to catch him, she ends up in an abandoned, dusty room. The bunny is nowhere to be seen, but Alexandra is still out hunting for her, so she decides to hunker down and hide here for a while. Her thoughts turn to the real world, and the life she desperately wants to get back to. In order to return, she needs to pay a debt of 10 billion gems, which seems practically impossible. At least for the time being, she's going to have to learn how to survive in this body. Although she's small and weak, Cherise is very cute. Maybe she can earn enough money to go back by using her baby charms to win people over. With a click of her fingers, she summons the control screen, listing her objectives in the game. The first, obviously, is to repay that enormous debt. The second is to become heir to the throne, and the third is still a mystery. But that's totally the opposite to the game. Being kingmaker was hard enough. How is she supposed to become the heir to the throne? To start with, she's an illegitimate child, so that makes it near impossible for her to inherit the title of Empress. But on top of that, the current emperor has a total of 14 grandchildren currently capable of inheriting the title. Among those 14, only 11 actually competed in the original game, but that's still 10 kids too many. While Cherise is looking through the quest screen, she is found by Alexandra, who somehow looks even more violent and malicious now than earlier. In this world, the heir to the throne can use magic, so the evil Alexandra flew up to the window to catch her. And just like that, the first game is over. Oh, wait, does that mean she just killed Cherise? Oh my gosh, how evil do you have to be to murder a 4-year-old? She is literally the devil. Everything goes black, and Cherise wakes up on the floor again in the same position as an hour ago. Well, here we go again. It looks like running away wasn't enough to complete the quest. Upon closer inspection, it doesn't say to escape Alexandra, so that means she needs to get away completely, and she can't do that alone. At first, Cherise quietly takes the beating while forming her plan. But when Alexandra grabs her hair again, she can't help but fight back. Just like last time, she slams her head into her half-sister's chin. She resists the urge to run away, since that didn't work last time. But maybe she should, because the next moment, Alexandra's nose starts bleeding, and she gets even angrier than before. Uh-oh. Against her instincts, a sudden mission pops up telling her to stop the nosebleed. It sounds crazy to stay instead of running away, but the reward is 10 gems. And she's gotta start somewhere. Before Alexandra can wind up another punch, little Cherise holds a cloth to her nose, mopping up the blood and stopping her in her tracks. Suddenly, a maid storms in, shocked to find the favored princess of the Castilian Empire bleeding. Cherise is hoping the nanny will save her, but she only cares about Alexandra. In fact, she seems almost more bloodthirsty than the princess. Cherise surprises her by answering back. Apparently, she never spoke before now, but this time she stands her ground. It still doesn't do her much good. Instead of letting the adult take charge, Alexandra steps in, deciding to punish her sister herself. She summons her magic, displaying the powers of the dragon heart, the symbol of the royal family. This special ability is only gifted to those in the bloodline of the emperor. So not only is she about to burn her sister to a crisp, but she's also rubbing in the fact that she's illegitimate. Using the dragon heart for violence is prohibited before the age of 10. But I think we all know at this point that Alexandra doesn't care about the rules. Cherise is ready to face her doom when suddenly another notification pops up loading a set of user abilities. And guess what? Cherise also has the power of the dragon heart. They're a lot less powerful than her sisters, but at least she's not totally useless. In addition to that, she also has a strong specialty for pharmacology, which will come in handy later. That is, if she can survive this battle. It's also locked until she has paid back half of her debt, so for the time being, her pharmacology skills are capped at a very low rank. Seriously, it's like this game is setting her up for failure. On the orders of the princess, the nanny grabs Cherise and throws her to the ground, calling her a disgraceful child. Alexandra will only forgive her if she kneels and kisses her hand, which is a really big deal. One royal would never kneel to another unless it was the emperor. For the sake of her pride, Cherise refuses and suddenly lunges forward to bite her leg. Oh no, now she's done it. Absolutely enraged, Alexandra summons the full extent of her powers, swearing to end her sister's life. Poor Cherise has no other option but to meekly call for help, hoping for at least one adult with a conscience in this palace. At that very instant, the three of them are walked in by the one person who might actually be able to help. This man is Baikal Win Castalia, the divine king of the Northern Empire. And boy, is he handsome. Even as a 4-year-old, Cherise is struck by his good looks. King Baikal heard the noise from outside and came to investigate. By some stroke of luck, he's not on Alexandra's side. As soon as he expresses disapproval, the young princess starts to shake and immediately apologizes. The king reminds her coldly that she is not to use her powers until the age of 10, especially against other royals. He's probably the only person that actually considers Cherise a royal. The nanny tries to explain that Cherise caused trouble first, but Baikal doesn't take kindly to a lowly maid speaking up in his presence. When he turns around, she drops to her knees at once and sits quietly while he checks on Cherise. She assures him she's not injured, surprising the king. Most kids, heck, most people are terrified of him, but Cherise isn't even shaking. She's more interested in the character information that just popped up, detailing his family history and even his current physical condition. He's related to Cherise's mother, so maybe that's why he's a little softer towards her. While she was distracted, Baikal's right-hand man, Jackal, appeared. The king asked Jackal to take her to his quarters for a checkup. She's about to take his hand when a surprise quest pops up, challenging her to hold King Baikal's hand to relieve his bloating stomach. What kind of nonsense is that? The thing is, it's worth extra points for how dangerous it is because, let's be frank, Baikal does not look like the kind of guy who likes holding hands. Cherise decides to risk it and goes all in. She rushes over to the king and grabs him, even calling him father. Everyone is stunned. She acts as cute as she can, saying that if anyone should take her away, it should be him. It's a high-risk strategy, but will it pay off? She keeps babbling, asking him to be her father and promising to be well-behaved. The truth is, he's actually her uncle, her mother's eldest brother. But the details aren't important right now. To try and convince him, she offers to press a pressure point on his hand to relieve his bloating. I'm not sure how a kid is supposed to know about acupressure techniques, but you've got to give her points for being creative. And surprisingly, it works. Instead of handing her off to Jackal, Baikal picks her up himself and promises to take her home. Suddenly, another notification pops up announcing that she's completed the tutorial. For the time being, it will merge her consciousness with her real-world identity, Yoon Che-ri. Apparently, her body will be switched to off mode, which is mildly concerning. But it's not like she can do anything about it from this tiny little body. As he's walking away, Baikal warns Alexandra not to bother Cherise again. From now on, she's under his protection and has the honor of his family name. He also says she's not allowed to leave the palace for 1 month. Wow, that was fast. Cherise went from all alone to having a super powerful protector in like half an hour. He leaves the rest of the punishment to Jackal, including the interrogation of the nanny to find out the full story. Yikes. I'm glad this guy is on her side and not against her. After falling asleep in her adopted father's arms, baby Cherise wakes up in a huge, comfortable bed feeling better than ever. She is still getting her bearings when a pretty young girl introduces herself as Sophia Everville, the eldest daughter of the Everville family who served the Divine King. From the history of the Empire, Cherise knows the Evervilles are a very prominent family. For the last 500 years, there have been lots of dedicated families who have served the royals, and the most loyal of all are the Evervilles. That means Sophia would be another amazing ally to have on her side. So Cherise turns on the charm, making use of her adorable baby features. She's immediately rewarded with a cuddle and the promise that Sophie will be her personal caretaker from now on. Apparently, the Divine King personally ordered it. Maybe being reminded that she's part of the Wynn family has given him a sense of responsibility. Better late than never, I guess. Sophia does her hair, dressing her up all pretty and leading her to have breakfast with her new father. While walking over, she becomes suspicious of this preferential treatment, but Sophia assures her that she's in good hands. Of all his brothers and sisters, Baikal loved her mother Kayenna the most. But if that's the case, why did he ignore her until now? The table is laid out in the gardens, where Baikal is already waiting for her. Cherise has probably never had this much food in her life, so she sits down with a big smile and acts as well-behaved as possible. Before she can dig in, another mission appears, asking her to hold his hand and soothe his bloating. Again with the bloating? What is she, a doctor? Actually, in her past life, her grandfather raised her to become a doctor, but she chose the pharmacist career path instead because she wanted to research and develop new drugs. Since she's got a decent time limit on the mission, Cherise can enjoy a nice breakfast first. Baikal teases her by trying to give her vegetable dishes first, but then brings out the good stuff. She's even assigned a maid named Nania Lindensky to help her eat. This is ultimate luxury. Once she's scraped her plates clean, it's time for the main mission. In order to actually cure the bloating, she'll need to lance his finger. But that's not exactly a casual request. I mean, if a 4-year-old came running up to you, asking if they could stab you with a heated needle, what would you say? No, duh. The staff are horrified. She tries to explain it away by claiming a big dragon came to her in her dream and told her all kinds of things, including cures for when your stomach hurts. Apparently. They're not totally convinced, but Baikal is willing to give it a go. He orders everyone to get the materials that Cherise needs, so she whispers to Sophia, who then hands the list to Nania to procure. It's a pretty simple list. Just a candle, bandages, clean water, and a long, thin needle. Jackal asks why she didn't just tell everyone out loud, and she says she didn't want to scare her father by talking about needles in front of him. The idea that she could scare someone like Baikal at all is hilarious. His palace is famous for being totally impenetrable. In all her run-throughs, Cherise could never get inside, no matter how many bribes she attempted or spies she placed. At least that means she'll definitely be safe if she can earn her place here. Soon, Nania returns with the supplies, so Cherise gets to work. She ties a ribbon to mark the spot, then preheats the needle to sterilize it. I'm kind of shocked these people are letting a 4-year-old handle a needle. Does no one know about basic parenting? Baikal offers up his hand, and Cherise focuses all her energy to prick just the right spots. One gentle tap, and it's done. The notification announces her mission success and awards her 1,000 gems. Baikal is surprised, but he already feels better. Cherise tries to avoid any questions about her medical technique, but fortunately, the king doesn't seem too suspicious. At the encouragement of Jackal, he pats his daughter's head and tells her he's very proud. So not only did she win back some money, she's also earned some of his affection. Unfortunately, she also hasn't got rid of his indigestion completely. In order to earn extra points, she'll need to get rid of the remaining 50%. The game gives her a little hint by pointing to the herbs and fruits in the garden, suggesting she make a natural digestive remedy to completely cure him. And the reward is 10 million gems. It's definitely worth attempting, but how the heck is she going to figure out which plants to use? This is where her pharmaceutical knowledge comes in handy. Apricot soaked in sugar is supposed to help digestion, and she already knows there are apricot trees in the garden. Before she can plan anymore, Baikal announces that he's going to work. She stops him on the way and asks him to treat her as a real daughter. She even offers to take a test to prove herself. After all, just living in his palace and being pampered isn't going to offer her the protection of a real heir. King Baikal says in order to be his daughter, she should just play and have fun, especially on a sunny day like this. Wait, that's it? Cherise was expecting him to make her study or something. But maybe this is for the best. Playing in the garden will give her a chance to make the apricot soaked in sugar. While she's off exploring the grounds, Jackal and Baikal are watching from his office window. The whole palace has come alive with this newest addition. Jackal says it's because she reminds everyone of her mother, Princess Kaena, who was just as brave as Cherise and never feared Baikal. Looking through her documents, there's no information about her father. Maybe that's why she's had such a hard time being accepted by other royals. She was also listed as a slow learner, but suddenly on the day Baikal arrived, she started talking and acting intelligently. Let's hope he takes that as a sign of her affection and not something more suspicious. Next, we find out a bit more about the Castalia Empire. The northern and southern territories of the empire are ruled by different kings, almost like their own countries. But to be honest, the true power in the empire lies with the northern king, the strongest dragon slayer and swordmaster, Rerhad Royal Castalia. I mean, with a name like that, he was never going to be just some guy, was he? Rerhad is treated like the real emperor. His dragon heart powers are so strong that they've even extended his lifetime. He's been ruling this empire for the last 150 years. So yeah, this guy is a pretty big deal. He has 3 biological children whom he loves very much, who are called Jen, Jin, and Win. Baikal and Cherise are descendants of Win, who have historically been the most powerful faction among all the emperor's descendants. Recently, things have got a bit tense between the Win and Jen family, who have been engaged in embezzlement and been disrespecting Cherise. For the meantime, they want her to start acting and looking like a real princess as soon as possible, and that means she needs jewelry stat. I didn't realize it was a requirement for 4-year-olds to wear priceless gems. Apparently, it's a big honor to be allowed onto the 4th floor, where they keep the gems and clothes, including some special pieces that were meant for Cherise's mother. She looked just like her when she was little. Kaena, like her daughter, had no fear of Baikal, and always begged him to play with her. They stayed close as siblings until one day she had to leave his palace, and then... Well, it's not clear how exactly she met her end, but the memory of that day still haunts the king. Most royals of his level would have erased the trauma with advanced magic, but Baikal was trapped under a lake for 4 years, which has affected his abilities. Why he was trapped under a lake is also a mystery. I don't know about you guys, but this plot has already got my head spinning, and we've only just started. While Jackal and Baikal are discussing her upbringing, Cherise is running around in the grounds having the time of her life. For now, she seems to be doing pretty well. She already has a load of gems, a protective father figure, and she's safe from all the nasties in the Imperial Palace. She's starting to feel really positive about erasing her debt and returning to her home in the real world. An exhausted Sophia finally catches up with her and announces that she's been given permission to take whatever she wants from the 4th floor. Of course, Cherise has no idea what that means. Baikal's botanical palace has 3 floors. Architecturally speaking, the 4th floor doesn't exist. Actually, the 4th floor is a secret dimension, kept hidden by Baikal's magic. As soon as he became an adult, he used his powers to create it, so it really is an honor to be allowed to enter. However, Cherise has just found the apricot tree she was looking for. She asks Sophia very sweetly if they can go a little later, so naturally she agrees. She even offers to show her where they keep the harvested apricots, which is exactly what she needs for her mission. Back in Baikal's office, Jackal has even more reports on Cherise's condition. They placed a machine next to her while she slept, which measures how much dragon heart power a person has. Cherise has shockingly little. Like, look at that! You can barely see it! Unfortunately, she seems to be uncommonly weak for a royal. If anything, she's more like an ordinary person. Uh-oh. It's not good that the king has found this out. What if he decides she's too weak and kicks her out of his palace? Jackal suggests basically the same thing. He's worried for her health and advises they take her out of the race to become an heir and away from the palace. But Baikal says that wouldn't help. Fighting continues just the same outside the palace as it does inside. She would still be a target wherever she goes. It seems impossible to protect her, but Baikal has something up his sleeve. Clearly, it's a pretty reckless idea, judging by Jackal's reaction. It's not something illegal, but it would leave a stain on the honor of the Wynn family, and especially on his sister's legacy. Would these people stop being so secretive already? I want to know what it is! For the time being, all we know for sure is that Baikal has decided to formally adopt Cherise. Jackal seems a lot more chill with that decision and promises to proceed with the next steps as soon as possible. By the way, Baikal already has 2 kids, twin sons named Edis and Gurgis. They've been incredibly strong since childhood, truly their father's sons. He's never had to worry about them, until now. I wonder how they'll react to having a baby sister. Other than his actual children, Baikal has another reason to be worried about Cherise. She said that a dragon came to her in a dream and told her to prick a finger with a needle as a cure for bloating. Jackal didn't and still doesn't seem surprised by that. After all, the royal family is full of weird and quirky traits because of the power of the dragon heart. But Baikal is suspicious. He doesn't think she lied for any malicious reasons, but he definitely thinks she made it up. According to her old nanny, Cherise wasn't educated at all, meaning she shouldn't be able to read, write, or even eat properly. They even thought she couldn't speak before the day Alexandra hit her, so she must have learned all these things from somewhere else. He doesn't really believe it came from a dragon in her dreams, but that story has given him an idea. He tells Jackal to spread a rumor that Cherise is blessed by the dragon and was educated in her dreams. Ever the loyal servant, he agrees at once. That rumor will make it less suspicious for Baikal to suddenly adopt Cherise, but it might make things a bit awkward for the boys, who are at Yanza Academy. They'll probably hear about their new sister through the rumor before they hear it from their father. In other news, Alexandra is still being punished for bullying Cherise. She was interrogated, kept inside the palace for a month, and even forced to write an apology letter. Now Jackal wants to know if they should keep punishing her or let the incident go. Although honestly, it seems like he's really enjoying the process. Kinda messed up that he likes torturing a little girl, but she did nearly kill Cherise back there, so I'm not complaining. Even if she does deserve it, she's not their main target right now. Their priority at the moment is to regain the respect earned by the Wynn family that is being trampled on by Jen and Jin. Baikal has bigger fish to fry than little Alexandra. There's also some kind of secret they're keeping from Cherise, though they won't say what. Since she's still so young, they think it's best to let her adjust to life in the palace first before slowly revealing things to her. And in the meantime, there's a lot to prepare for the adoption process. They need her official papers, education-related documents, and a lot more clothes than they did for the princes. After all, raising a princess is very different to raising a prince. While they're discussing the necessary materials, Sophia arrives with a request from Cherise. She wants to use all the apricots in the warehouse, although in this world, they call it uzlum. They think they're inedible, so they have no idea why Princess Cherise wants an entire warehouse full of them. Baikal assumes she wants them for some kind of game, so he orders his staff to let her have whatever she wants. Seems like a pretty bad stance to take as a parent, but I guess he trusts that she's smart enough not to poison herself. And while she's busy playing with apricots, Baikal orders Jackal to collect every book ever written on raising girls. Aw, that's actually really sweet. He must be so busy, but he still wants to be the perfect father, no matter how much studying it takes. Now they've been given the all clear, Sophia and the warehouse workers are happy to assist Cherise making her apricot medicine. even if they are a little confused. One worker by the name of Tombi has spent half his life managing the plants of the palace, and he's never heard of a medicine that uses this fruit. They always just throw it out every spring. Cherise pulls her favorite card, pretending that the dragon taught her how to use them in a dream, with a special recipe no one has ever tried before. How convenient. Sophia and Tombi are happy to follow her instructions word for word, pouring a giant batch of sugar into a tub, then scrubbing the ripe apricots clean in a separate barrel. While they're sorting the fruit, Cherise spots a few that are overripe, so she throws the bad ones out and accidentally hits Tombi on the head. Oops. There's one part of this process that she can't do herself. Since she's a kid, it would be dangerous for Cherise to handle any knives, so she gives the job of removing the seeds to Tombi, who is only too happy to prove his skills with a knife. He looks a little scary, but at least he's getting the job done. Taking the seeds isn't totally necessary, but it will speed up the process once the apricots are stewing. They also contain a lot of amygdalin, which can be really dangerous. A little bit is healing, but too much is toxic. When she was little, the real Yoon Che-ri accidentally ate some apricot seeds and got told off for nearly poisoning herself. So that's how she knows. She is a pharmacist, in case you forgot. The next step is to pour the water into glass jars filled with the apricots and sugar. After that, they just have to wait for it to ferment, which will take about 100 days. So Baikal is just going to have to put up with his indigestion until then. I get the feeling he can handle it. But Cherise does feel bad leaving him uncomfortable. So when Sophia announces there's a spell to speed up the fermentation process, she leaps at the chance to press fast forward. With the help of magic, the fermentation will only take a few hours. Then she can bring the first batch to Baikal tomorrow. The next morning, Cherise is up early. Sophia walks in to find her trying to catch a dragonfly by the window. Surprised the princess is already awake. For today's outfit, Sophia picks an adorable pink dress and red ribbon combination that matches her eyes perfectly. Their first stop is breakfast, but really, Cherise just wants to check on the apricots already. As if Sophia can read her mind, she suggests they stop at the kitchens first. She's such a good maid. The princess is welcomed warmly by Chef Maya, who is very intrigued to hear that apricot medicine was being brewed by a 4-year-old. She leads them to the jars, which have fermented perfectly without growing any mold. The next step is to filter the fruit and pour the remaining liquid into bottles. The actual liquid is the medicine in the end, not the apricots. Satisfied with the outcome, Cherise heads out with one perfect glass of apricot juice for her adoptive father. Only then, Jackal announces that Baikal can't see her this morning. Well, there goes that plan! And Cherise was so excited. Actually, Baikal wakes up every day before the sun rises, eats a small meal, and then works until dawn. From then, he trains all day with his knights in the training hall. He basically lives like a manic fitness influencer every day. But Cherise really wants to see him, and more than anything, she wants the reward from her quest. So she asks Jackal if she could visit him in the training hall, and he gives her the go-ahead. The knights are all shocked when a little girl in pigtails arrives, totally unbothered by all the big sweaty men with swords. She even stops to ask them if they've seen the king around anywhere. She's really a girl on a mission. Already obsessed, the blushing soldiers point her towards Baikal, and she runs towards him happily. The others are a little confused when he kneels down to hug her. As far as they know, His Highness doesn't have a daughter. Plus, the fact that he's acting so gentle and sweet around her, it's all very out of character for King Baikal. Cherise turns her cuteness charms up to 100 and presents her gift, wheeled in by Sophia on a tea tray. The soldiers are so taken by her that they want some too, but one look from Baikal shuts them up. There's the scary king they know and fear. Unfortunately for him, Cherise forces him to share her precious gift with the knights. At first, he seems grumpy, but then she comes over and makes a fuss over his health, telling him not to drink cold things if he doesn't want to get sick again. See? Her father is always number one. He can't resist her anyway, not when she looks like a little angry cat. Which is great news for Cherise, because cats are actually one of the king's secret loves. He's never told anyone about his love for cats, but because she saw his stats in the status window, Cherise knows. So she's doing the perfect job at gaining his affection, especially because she keeps refusing all the knights who offer to carry her around. After a while, the king tells Sophia to take her back to the palace so they can continue their training session. Before she leaves, Cherise thanks her father for giving her permission to visit his secret dimension, and she asks him to call her Sherry for short next time they see each other. Damn, this girl knows every trick in the book! And for her hard work, Cherie is awarded 10 million gems and an extra 10 for sharing the medicine with the King's Knights. I'd say that's definitely worth the effort. She's already acing this game. As soon as they return to the palace, Sophia decides it's time for them to visit the 4th floor. She wants the princess to start dressing like royalty, but she does warn her that the path to the extra dimension is a little tricky. It's a bit tedious, but it means that Baikal's secret space is the safest treasure vault in the world. On the way, they pass a portrait of Kienna, who looks scarily like her daughter. The entrance to the 4th floor is behind her portrait. The first section is entirely jewels and pearls. Cherise spots a pretty little tiara that she loves. Sophia explains that it actually belonged to her mother Kienna and was given to her by King Baikal. Actually, most of the jewelry in this room was given by him. It's pretty obvious just from the size of the space and the amount of luxury here that he really loved her. But he loves Cherise too. He's even given her permission to take any of her mother's pieces if she wants them. Once she hears that, Cherise decides to take pretty much everything that used to belong to Kienna, especially her favorite little tiara. As they explore the rest of the 4th floor, Sophia reassures the princess that she'll be treated like true royalty from now on. They might even need some more maids. 1 week later, and the weather has turned. Autumn is approaching, and the newly hired maids, Hana and Shami, are on high alert to make sure precious Cherie is wearing an outfit that will keep her warm and dry. Hana and Shami are also from the Everville family, and they are just as dedicated as Sophia. Actually, they might even be more dedicated. Sometimes they even get into arguments over how to best take care of the princess. From the moment they met Cherie, they were obsessed with her cuteness and wanted to serve her as best they could. Maybe that's why she got a quest to slow their heartbeats, which is a slightly strange thing to do when you first meet someone. The maids notice a wound from Alexandra that still hasn't healed, so she uses it as an opportunity to calm them down, asking them to apply her ointment together. It's a little cheesy, but at least she got 20 gems. Anyway, they've been perfect maids since then. The next few days are supposed to rain heavily, so Cherise decides to use the time to attend basic training, a chance for all nobles to learn the history and lineage of the royal family, starting with Emperor Rerhod. That kind of information will be super useful background while going through the game, so Cherie is very enthusiastic about her studies. Normally, nobles don't start this kind of study until the age of 5, but she's already proven she can handle it. But then Sophia starts with the genealogy of the Castalia nobility, and she quickly loses interest. It's only too easy to get distracted when a pretty white cat appears above the blackboard. The freaky thing is, Sophia can't see it. She just thinks Cherie is trying to get out of her lessons and suggests they take a break. Knowing that the cat isn't ordinary means it's probably part of the game, so Cherise decides to ignore it and insists they continue their lesson. They go through the history of the Northern King, and how Rerhod, her great-grandfather, ruled it alone for 100 years. He won the heart of the dragon, ascended the throne, and exterminated all his brothers. In case you were wondering, no, the emperor is not a particularly chill dude. His children continued his legacy, creating the royal family we know today, and all the generations that have followed. The emperor then divided the country in half and built another territory in the south to give his descendants a chance to rule for themselves. That's what the royal family members compete for, the throne in the south. After a brief pause, Sophia decides to end their lesson when King Baikal himself shows up. Cherie tries to pay attention to him, but it's a little difficult when the cat suddenly climbs up on his shoulder. Is it in some way related to the king? It doesn't seem like he can see it, though. Baikal says he wants to show her something, so she follows him out. A little worried that he's going to kick her out, especially since he's being so mysterious. When he refuses to tell her where they're heading, she starts to really panic. His expression is totally blank, too. Freaking out as they approach the door, Cherie decides to protect herself and takes an opportunity to purchase something on screen. You see, about half an hour ago, in the classroom, a notification suddenly appeared. It wasn't a quest, but an event opportunity. The game decided at that very opportune moment to offer her hint tickets to allow her to access special information to help her in the game. You know, in case she's been worried about the ever-present possibility of being kicked out of the royal family for being too weak. Obviously, if they phrase it like that, it seems super suspicious, as if something big is about to happen. She was also worried that it might be a trick from that evil bunny, some kind of a lesson to see if she would spend her hard-earned gems just because of a nifty discount. It was a big decision, so she waved the window off and tried to pay attention to the rest of her lessons with Sophia. However, when her father appeared, she started overthinking, so she ended up buying the tickets. Of course, Baikal didn't kick her out. He actually led her to a room full of presents and brand new fancy furniture. I think we all saw that coming. That's 99 gems down the drain for no reason. Cherise must have adjusted a little too easily to her baby lifestyle because she starts having a toddler-style temper tantrum. Her father notices and assumes she's upset about his gift, so he asks if she wants something else instead. Coming back to her senses, Cherise tells him it's perfect. Besides, she should look on the bright side. She doesn't have to worry about being kicked out anymore. Her father carefully selected and prepared gifts just for her, even designing a whole room himself. Who cares about some hints? Cherise opens the first box to find coloring pens and pencils and gives Baikal a huge smile. This is the first time anyone bothered to give her these kinds of gifts, so she feels really special. Baikal is pleased and then mentions that the room was constructed by the Duke of Sustain, one of the Empire's architectural geniuses. Che-ri is shocked, but he goes on to list 2 of the other 5 Dukes of the arts, including the Duke of Terensky of painting and Orzena of sculpture. Apparently, they were employed especially to decorate this room and pick the toys. What? So he basically got the Da Vinci and Picassos of this world to help choose presents for a child? This guy is so extra. Che-ri is so humbled that she drops into a bow to thank him. Baikal kind of just laughs at her and affectionately pats her head. She doesn't need to be so grateful. As a princess of his palace, she can just sit back and enjoy. He opens a book and tells her to go play, and Che-ri doesn't need to be told twice. She can't do anything about the accidental purchase now, but she still wants to read the hints. Picking up a pencil, she pretends to sketch and secretly opens up the hint access page. There are 3 important conditions. 1, she can only read once, so she'll have to remember each one as best she can. 2, the hints disappear quickly. And 3, the significance of each hint is random. Now we know why it had such a great discount. But let's not forget that Che-ri was a scientist in her past life, so she has a pretty good memory. Feeling confident, she clicks access and opens her very first hint. The first hint isn't about plot. It's about how her debts is affected by a game over. If she has to start again, all gems collected until that point will be lost, even if she already repaid the full debt. There is one condition where she can keep special items in her treasure chest, but she needs 50 million gems to activate that feature. From her previous playthroughs, Cherise can guess that the treasure chest will be sold in the dragon market, which holds all sorts of rare and magical items. The only issue is that everything in there is super expensive. Even entering the shop costs 1,000 gems. Keeping that in mind, Cherise clicks the next hint, which is pretty vague. It just says that users in debt will have to endure various unspecified penalties. It's basically a warning that the game can and probably will mess her up at any time, so she should pay off her debt as soon as possible. But that's not really a hint, just a rule. Frustrated, Che-ri gets mad and clicks through the rest of the hints. But the next 2 are duds. None of them have any useful information, just things she already knows about the game functions and plot. Luckily, the 4th hint does have some useful info. The type of quest will affect how high the reward is, which is chosen randomly with a certain range. Hidden quests are far more valuable than surprise quests, but they only pop up when certain secret conditions are met, so getting one is basically just luck. Achievement quests are the most valuable of all, but they can only be accessed as part of paid episodes, which must be purchased separately. Sounds just like games in real life. After all her tapping and thinking, Baikal comes over and scares the life out of her. It looked like she was drawing, but her sheet is still blank, so he suggests she play with something else. Scrambling for an excuse, Che-ri says she was going to draw her father, but he's so handsome that she didn't know where to start. Oof, anyone else just cringe a little? Apparently satisfied, Baikal tells her to take as much time as she wants. I guess his ego is bigger than we thought. He goes back to his book, and Che-ri comes over to sit on his lap. She asks about the twins since they're coming back home soon. She's worried that the boys won't like her, which is a genuine concern. Other than their reputations as talented, smart princes, Cherise doesn't know much about the twins. Edis is supposedly cunning like a fox, while Gurgis is strong like a bear. So there's a chance Edis will see through her act. When she used to play the game, he was always the first to sense any deception. Baikal reassures her that the boys won't be cruel. They don't care about much other than themselves anyway. He then asks her what the word father means to her. Che-ri is momentarily reminded of her past life where the word father conjured the smell of hospital disinfectant. Her father was very sick when she was young, but she does remember a few warm smiles before he passed. Trying to change the subject, she asks him to tie her hair, claiming that fathers should put daughters on their laps and tie their hair like a princess. Wow, she's really laying it on thick today. But Baikal is genuinely asking because he wants to be a good father, so Cherise tries to put it more simply. Ultimately, a father is someone who should always be on her side, even if she makes a mistake. Baikal assures her he can do that much, and besides, she's a princess now. No one would dare stand against her. If anyone, including Alexandra, dares to step out of line, then, well, I think we know exactly what would happen. By the time he's finished threatening children, the king has neatly tied her hair with the ribbon she gave him. He tells her she can have anything in this empire. Whatever she wants, he will move heaven and earth to make it happen. And he'll never abandon her, no matter what. Cherise starts to cry. He's so much sweeter than she was expecting. It's a relief to know he won't kick her out, but won't this make it that much harder for her to leave and return to the real world? After crying in her father's arms, Cherie falls asleep on his lap. Baikal gets super protective and refuses to move, even when Jackal arrives with sensitive documents that need to be looked at. It turns out the book he's been reading is also one of the many books on parenting that Jackal found, so he really has been working hard at becoming a good father. And this book says that fathers should always lull their daughters to sleep, so that's that. He tells Jackal to leave the papers nearby, accidentally waking Cherie, who tells him to get to work. That wins a big smile from Jackal, who starts gushing about how perfect the princess is, and even says the king has become much softer since she arrived. They head to his office to look over the adoption papers. Everything is going well so far, and with any luck, they should be able to celebrate the adoption officially just in time for the twins' arrival. A letter from their headmaster says they've already left the academy after finishing their exams early. They really do sound like child prodigies. I guess we should expect nothing less from the son of King Baikal. In other news, Sophia is requesting that His Majesty use his magic to make the plum trees blossom early because she wants to use them as decoration for the adoption party. Baikal agrees, leaving one last job to be taken care of. As of the next morning, a giant sign is posted in town announcing that King Baikal is formally adopting Princess Cherise Castalia. The news spreads like wildfire, which is both a good and bad thing. On one hand, people know not to mess with her now, but on the other, people still believe Cherie's reputation as a royal dimwit. Luckily, rumor is already getting around about her being blessed by the dragon, turning poison into medicine even at a young age. The political tension in the royal family is high, with power swaying between the Jen and Win factions now that Baikal has returned. With Cherise being the talk of the town, people are becoming more and more curious about the power struggle and what role Cherie will play in it. Meanwhile, the princess herself is gardening in the palace, totally oblivious to all this gossip. She's been exploring the palace grounds, which are brimming with useful herbs for her medicine. Getting a good collection going will be crucial in helping her complete quests later on. Tomby, the old groundsman, warns her that while there are many useful plants, there are also rats and snakes crawling through the backwoods. Which gets the princess thinking, how advanced is medicine in this world? Like, if she catches a cold, is she going to die? She asks Tomby, who explains that the palace has a medical center for the treatment of basic injuries and illnesses. Common folk buy medicine at the temples in town, especially at the temple of Hafnius, the goddess of love and faith. She's the most famous and well-loved goddess of the empire, so naturally her temple is also the most powerful. It's known as the only force of authority that could stand against the imperial family. That's how you know it's a big deal. That also explains why the medicine they sell is so expensive. One batch of medicine goes for the same price as feeding a family of 4 for a month. And there are far more priests than doctors, so common folk don't have much choice but to cough up the cash and beg the temple for help. Kind of twisted, isn't it? After hearing about the cost and wait times for medical treatment in the Empire, Cherise is seriously concerned. It seems like the whole system is set up to squeeze as much money as possible from their patients, with no concern for their actual health. Tomby can tell that the state of the Empire's healthcare is upsetting the princess. He reassures her that the goddess Hafnius takes good care of her people. Like most people in this country, he honestly believes the best medicine is good old prayer. Looks like Cherie has her work cut out for her. The two main issues she must tackle are access to healthcare for commoners and the level of medical knowledge among the population. But because she's an uneducated princess, the common people are unlikely to trust any apothecary or medicine she could produce. Reminded of the achievement quest, she guesses that they must involve major plot-changing activities. In the game, there is one literally just called Stop Armageddon. That gives you an idea of the scale and danger involved. Cherise is interrupted by a snotty little boy with sharp eyes who calls her a dummy and asks how she dares to stare at him. Bro, do you know who this girl is? Obviously he doesn't, but he introduces himself as a prince from the Jen family. Ash Jen Castalia. Another Jen come to stir up some trouble. Doesn't he realize he's in the wrong palace to be messing with a Win? For the sake of her family pride, Sherry can't just let him go. He's just threatening to use the power of the dragon heart on her when Sherry knocks him on his butt. Then he really takes it too far by insulting her mother. Cherise kicks him hard and forces him to apologize, looking the most terrifying she's ever looked in her whole life. Ash is shocked, but holds his ground. He warns her that Princess Alexandra won't let her get away with this behavior. Clearly, he doesn't know these two have thrown hands before, and it didn't end well for the stuck-up princess. Cherise threatens him with a legendary red tincture that can cause agony when dropped into an open wound. Once she mentions poison, Ash is done acting brave and suddenly sprints off before she fulfills her promise. What neither of them realize is that the twin Princess Gurgis and Edis were watching their interaction from a nearby tree. They were about to step in and help Cherise, but clearly she could handle it herself. Pretty impressive for a first impression. After Ash ran off like a baby, they consider taking her to see their grandfather, who is very sick. Whoa, they must have been really impressed if they already think she can cure diseases. I hope they realize she's still just a toddler. But first, they want to give Ash a proper punishment for trying to pick on a Win. Gurgis lands right in his path as he's running away, firing up his magic to prove he means business. While Ash is making excuses, Edis appears behind him, almost giving him a heart attack. This kid may be dumb, but he's not stupid enough to pick a fight with the twins. He gets on the ground at once, begging their forgiveness. They almost let him get away with it too, but Ash made the crucial mistake of claiming he didn't realize the boys were watching. Which means he's not really sorry for insulting Cherise. He's just sorry he got caught. Now he's really done for. I almost feel bad for the kid. Almost. When Cherise returns to the palace, she tells her adoptive father everything that happened and gets rewarded with cakes and another hair braiding session. He actually thanks her for chasing him off. Apparently, Ash has trespassed into their grounds a few times before, so he was overdue a lesson. Once her hair is finished with a pretty cherry tie, Cherise spots the piles of documents on her father's desk. He clearly has a lot of work, so she asks to stay and watch, hoping to gain some extra gems by making tea for her father and his office workers. The grateful staff sit her down with a sketchbook, giving Sherry a chance to draw the cat that's been lurking around her father for the last week. Once he finishes his work, she shows him the drawing. Baikal suddenly turns cold. Clearly, he recognizes it. But it looks so harmless. Why was his reaction so intense? Once he confirms that she really can see it, Baikal clicks his fingers and the cat zings into her physical form. She jumps on his shoulder and the king formally introduces his familiar, Mule. Aha! That explains why she was always hanging around Baikal. Apparently, ordinary people can't see familiars. Usually, your powers must be at least a level of half-dragon in order to see and create familiars. They're only granted to the strongest members of the royal family, so it's strange that she can see his. Sherry thinks it might be something to do with the game, but Baikal assumes this is another sign she's been blessed by the dragon. Edis and Gurgis have familiars too, which gets her thinking. Maybe that bunny from the start of the game is also a familiar. She suddenly gets the idea that it might be the Emperor's, but Baikal has never seen it before. He always keeps his familiar hidden, but what if the rabbit really does belong to the Emperor, and this wasn't all a glitch but actually his master plan? Before she can think much more, Shami drops a teapot, alerting Cherise to the metal poisoning in her hands. It's clearly itchy and uncomfortable, so Sherry runs off to grab some ointment. Baikal stops her, reminding the princess that palace rules forbid a member of the royal family from handing out any special items given by royalty, especially those blessed by a priest. Sounds kind of messed up if you ask me, but what's even worse is that Shami has been using an expired ointment with essence of poppy extract. If you don't know, poppy is the basis for opium, a highly addictive drug, that she's been applying directly into open wounds. Uh-oh, I get the feeling Sherry's next quest is about to be a doozy. Sure enough, the next screen to appear asks her to fix the standards of medical knowledge in the Empire. It won't be an easy job, especially since common knowledge dictates that the older an ointment is, the more potent it is. Which is just... oh boy, she's got a long way to go if she wants to set these people straight. She doesn't take the offer because it's paid content that costs almost 1,000 gems to buy. But after her father sends Shami to the medical center and kicks Che-ri out so he can focus, she reconsiders. The screen pops up again and again, offering discount after discount until it gets to 900. Finally, she accepts. After all, she really does want to help Shami and the common folk of the Empire. As soon as she clicks accept, an achievement quest appears. The task at hand is to make a new ointment and give it to Shami, plus the 92,000 other people currently using the same rotten ointment. What? How the heck is she supposed to manage that? She's a little girl, not a factory! Just to make things harder, the reward is 100 million gems per person, and the punishment for failing is game over, so she doesn't really have much choice. With just over 2,000 hours to complete this impossible task, the total time is roughly 3 months. After tossing and turning all night, she settles on making an ointment with calendula oil, which is used to treat boils and quickly heals wounds. The only problem is that production time will take at least a month. Then they'll need to purify it, package it, and somehow distribute it to nearly 93,000 people. How will she even find all the right targets? On top of all that, her brothers have officially arrived home. Che-ri gets all dressed up to welcome them on a literal red carpet, while the boys get to stroll down like the fancy young princes they are. Che-ri tries to act as cute as possible to get on their good side, but it doesn't go down well. And just as she expected, Edis is already onto her. I can just tell he's going to be trouble. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!